I took the overnight shift at the Maple Mart on South River Road, just outside of Bedford, New Hampshire, because the money was steady and the neighborhood was quiet. Most nights were simple. I stocked the coolers, counted scratch ticket rolls, and listened to the soft hum of the ice cream freezers. By around 12:45 a.m., the lot outside would turn into a blank mirror of empty asphalt, broken only by the glow of a flickering street lamp and the distant whine of cars slipping along Route 101. Far in the distance, that Thursday night started, just like any other. I brewed a final pot of coffee, probably for a rare late-night driver, and wiped down the counter. The overhead speakers quietly played an old classic rock station, low enough that the ticking from the clock above the lottery machine felt louder than the music itself. Then, at exactly 12:57 a.m., the front door chimed. A man stepped inside, no taller than my shoulder, dressed in ironed khaki pants, a pale blue button-down shirt, and worn brown loafers. His gray hair was neatly parted, his posture stiff and upright, like someone who had spent a lifetime in the military, or at least someone who'd never fully shaken that discipline. No phone in his hand, no wallet, just a single folded bill pinched between two fingers. We exchanged a polite nod. "How's your night going?" I asked, more out of habit than anything. "Fine," he replied, his voice barely more than a whisper. He walked slowly to the cooler, picked out a bottle of spring water, and grabbed a pack of peppermints from the shelf near the counter. There was nothing about him, absolutely nothing, that suggested danger. Just some restless retiree, maybe someone who couldn't sleep. As the register printed the receipt, I noticed him studying me. His eyes were hazel, faded but sharp. Too sharp, too alert for this hour of the night. I counted his change. The pennies sliding across my palm felt louder than usual. And then, without warning, his hand shot forward, gently but firmly, wrapping around my wrist. It wasn't painful, but the pressure was calculated, controlled, practiced. He leaned in close. His breath carried a strange smell, a mix of mint and something else, something earthy like damp, freshly turned soil. "Be careful, girl," he said, articulating every word, slowly, deliberately. "There is a devil, all the time." The receipt fluttered against the cash drawer as I froze, unable to respond. And just as suddenly, he let go, slipped the water and mints into his shirt pocket, turned, and walked out. The door chimed, and his silhouette faded beyond the glass. No engine started. No footsteps. Nothing. It was as if the darkness had swallowed him whole. The rest of my shift, I kept replaying it. His grip, the eerie cadence of his warning, and those hollow hazel eyes staring straight through me. By daylight, I had half convinced myself it was nothing. Just some lonely old man, rambling nonsense to whoever was willing to listen. 3 uneventful nights passed. Then came Monday. A light rain smeared against the front windows, streaking the glow of the neon beer signs. Business was even slower than usual. At 12:55 a.m., I locked the side door, swept behind the chip racks, and started the final till report. Officially, the store closed at 1 a.m., but regulars knew I'd still pour coffee while balancing the drawer. At exactly 1:03 a.m., headlights swept across the glass windows, blinding me for a moment, then vanished. The door didn't open. I walked toward the window, peering out. A white panel van sat idling near the pumps. No company logo, no license plates, just a blank, empty sheet of metal where the tag should have been. My first instinct was to hit the silent alarm, but curiosity held me there. A figure stepped out from the passenger side. Hood up, mask pulled tight over his face. Without hesitation, he strode straight toward the door, a pistol gripped in his hand. I stumbled back, raising both palms. "Open the register," he ordered, voice muffled but sharp. I opened it, slid the bills onto the counter, heart pounding. He grabbed everything, then demanded the safe. I told him it was on a 12-hour time lock. I couldn't open it if I wanted to. He cursed, spun around, and ran. The van peeled out, no headlights, swallowed by the drizzle and the night. Only then did my fingers finally find the silent alarm button. Bedford police arrived about 10 minutes later. I gave my statement, fingers still trembling. They dusted for prints, knowing full well that the rain probably erased everything. Then, they asked for the CCTV footage. We gathered around the tiny monitor in the back office, rewinding the tape. It showed the masked man's entrance and his exit. But then, something caught my eye. The driver. When the passenger door had slammed shut, the interior van light flicked on for just 1 second. And in that second, I saw his profile. Gray hair, pale blue shirt collar, neatly parted hair, narrow shoulders. It was him, the old man, from Thursday. My pulse hammered in my ears. I whispered, "It's him," staring at the screen. The officers compared it to Thursday night's footage, side by side. Same khakis, same stiff posture, same man. They ran the van through every report, from Concord to Nashua. Nothing. Bedford PD believed me enough to call on the state troopers. 2 days later, Detective Mason called. They'd found the van, buried behind a wall of brush, on an old logging road in Bear Brook State Park. Fresh tire tracks, footprints, and one, right near the driver's side, matched a print taken from the floor behind my register. The next morning, a full task force combed the woods. What they found, I still think about. An encampment, a folding table, tarps strung between trees, boxes of stolen scratch tickets, cigarettes, and other goods taken from late-night robberies all across Route 4. And sitting there, crouched in the middle of it, were 3 men. 2 younger guys, both with records out of Massachusetts. And the third, Leonard Abbott, age 71, from Portsmouth. When they cuffed him, he muttered something, his voice low, eerily calm. "Calm as wine through pine," he said. "There's a devil, all the time." The trooper later told me, his eyes never, not once, left the tree-line. My manager replaced the shattered lottery display and installed brighter exterior lights. Customers started stopping by, not even to buy anything, but just to check if I was all right. But even now, something won't let me rest. A week after the raid, Detective Mason called again. Searchers had widened the perimeter, and deep in the woods, beyond the first campsite, they found another. Older, half-collapsed. Its fire pit filled with melted coins, charred wristwatches, and bones. Animal bones, they think. They hope. But among the ashes, they found something else. A driver's license. It belonged to a gas station clerk who disappeared after a holdup in Vermont 3 years ago. Before Mason hung up, he reminded me the investigation was still, very much, ongoing. Abbott's 2 accomplices? They talked and talked. But Abbott himself only spoke in brief whispers, and only when everyone in the room thought the interview tape had already stopped. Numbers, dates, and always the same single sentence. "There is a devil, all the time. I still work nights at Maple Mart. Now, there's a policy requiring 2 clerks after midnight. And yet, somehow, the store feels lonelier than ever." When I think about January 17th, 1994, I still smell the stale coffee, mixed with diesel fumes, that clung to every inch of the Leathers Oil Company station on Division Street in Gresham, Oregon. I was 19 years old back then, just a kid, saving for community college tuition, working the dawn shift 3 days a week. That Monday, it wasn't supposed to be my shift. I had traded with Virginia Endicott, so I could take an afternoon math exam. I replayed that decision, that swap, in my head 1,000 times. A little after 6, the shrill squawk of our cordless phone jolted me awake. It was my manager, Harry. He never, ever called our house. And his voice, it sounded flat, like all the air had leaked out of him. "Shane, 3 employees were hurt," he said. "I need you to come down, help secure the store. Once detectives clear it." I threw on my red leather jacket, jumped into my rusty blue Chevy S10, and drove the 10 minutes from Troutdale, half awake and half scared. When I pulled in, the lot was clogged with police cruisers, their lights flashing against the cold gray sky. Yellow tape fluttered in the sharp wind rolling off Mount Hood. A cop stopped me at the curb, but Harry saw me and waved me through. His mustache usually twitched when he talked. That morning, it didn't move at all. "They're gone, Shane," he said. "All three." I remember staring down at the oil-stained concrete, trying to comprehend what gone really meant. Then, an ambulance door slammed shut behind me. That sharp metallic clack made it all real. Detectives brought me inside after a short wait. The overhead fluorescents were off, just the dim green glow of the emergency exit signs lighting the room. My eyes were drawn to the safe, hanging wide open behind the counter. I didn't know it yet, but about $9,000 was missing. The register drawers were gutted, hanging open like hollow mouths. My boots squeaked on the old linoleum as they guided me past the drink coolers and toward the storage room. And then the smell hit me. Gunpowder, mixed with the sour tang of motor oil. A smell that never leaves your memory. There, on the cold cement floor, Virginia Endicott, 57 years old. Her daughter-in-law, Mary Beth Carey, 25. And Rosalie Faggerts, 51. They lay side by side, face down, arms tucked beneath them like someone had ordered them to get on the ground. Each had a single black hole in the back of their heads. Execution style. 3 triggers pulled, clean, efficient, cruel. And whoever did it walked out without leaving a single, damn, footprint. I stumbled outside, hands shaking, collapsed behind the propane cage, and threw up. The cold January air bit at my lungs, but it didn't help. All I could see was Virginia's broad smile from just the Friday before, when she'd show me pictures of her grandkids. Now, those photos would outlive her. By 9 a.m., news vans crowded the edge of the lot. Reporters called it the worst killings in Gresham's history. Inside the store, detectives grilled me. Every question you could imagine. Who had keys? Who owed money? Who had been fired? One name kept coming up. Tyrum Walter Thess, 20 years old, 6'4", with a Black Panther tattoo stretched across his stomach. Tyrum had managed the station until last August, when Harry let him go for skimming a few bucks from the till. The day Harry fired him, Tyrum never yelled, never slammed a door. He just stood there, staring at Harry, then at the rest of U.S., like he was memorizing every face in case he needed it later. By dusk, my mom drove me home. I skipped the exam. Numbers felt pointless. That night, the murders led every broadcast in Portland. The anchors reported that police believed Tyrum had entered before sunrise, with at least one accomplice. Forced the women to open the safe, then marched them to the back and pulled the trigger 3 times. The camera zoomed in on his mugshot. Angry eyes, dark hair pulled tight. The warning echoed. He may still be in the metro area. Sleep never came. Every creak in our house sounded louder. I kept imagining Tyrum standing in the hallway, a silencer in hand. Because dead witnesses tell no stories. The station stayed closed for 3 weeks. Then, on February 10th, an informant phoned detectives, named Tyrum as the shooter. By the time they issued the arrest warrant on the 16th, he was gone. Maybe Idaho. Maybe Mexico. Nobody knew. Lori Stevens, age 23, the driver of the getaway car, was arrested soon after. Tyrum's cousin, Larry Scherf, went down with her. Both took plea deals, served 10 years. 10 Christmases behind bars. But they'll see plenty more. Virginia, Rosalie, and Mary Beth lost every Christmas forever. Leathers rebuilt the shop, repainted the pumps, even hired security. But I never went back. I got a warehouse job instead. Still, I drive past sometimes, engine idling, staring at the storefront, wondering if I could rewrite history. Maybe if I hadn't swapped shifts. Maybe if I'd noticed something off in Tyrone months earlier. The years rolled by. Gresham grew. Strip malls, subdivisions, but that stain never faded. America's Most Wanted aired the case in 95. Unsolved Mysteries in 96. Both shows ended with the same haunting image. A silhouette slipping into the dark. A caption, "The suspect remains at large." Last summer, after 30 long years, I stood at a candlelight vigil outside that station. A cold drizzle tapped against the canopies as the victims' families placed photos on a folding table. Virginia, smiling in a floral Easter dress. Rosalie, holding a 4th of July sparkler. And Mary Beth, cradling her newborn son. The pastor asked if anyone who had worked with the women wanted to speak. Before my legs could protest, I stepped forward. I told the crowd how Virginia once replaced my entire starter motor during her lunch break because she was tired of hearing that old truck cough. How Rosalie brought fresh cinnamon rolls every Monday morning. And how Mary Beth had been studying to finish nursing school. My voice trembled, but the words felt lighter as they left my chest. When the vigil ended, I lingered by the edge of the lot. The sodium lights painted the wet pavement in dull amber. That's when I noticed him. A tall man, standing alone, near pump 3. Hood pulled low, hands buried in his pockets. Something about his posture, the way his back was perfectly straight, his head tilted just slightly, itched at my memory. He noticed me and turned away, revealing only his profile. That's when I saw it. Ink peeking out from under his jacket, right where a belly button would be. My stomach dropped, the same way it had outside that storage room 3 decades ago. A sudden burst of fear rooted me in place. Then, a city bus groaned by, blocking my view. When it passed, the man was gone. Maybe it was just some random guy with a cougar tattoo. Or maybe the past had wandered back, just curious how his handiwork had aged. I didn't chase him. I got in my truck, locked the doors, and drove home, hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. On the freeway, I kept glancing at the rear view, half expecting headlights to surge up behind me. None did. But even now, I've never shaken the feeling that someone is still out there, 2 steps outside the circle of my headlights. I still check for updates. That FBI bulletin for Tyrone is older now than most of the agents still hunting him. They say he could be living under another name, flipping burgers, filing taxes, maybe even coaching Little League. People think fugitives grow beards, hide in the woods. More often, they blend into the crowd. It was early April 2004. That's when I got hired for the 3rd shift at the Speedway on Elm Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. I needed the money, and working overnight seemed simple enough. Stock the shelves, mop the floors, maybe help a few late-night stragglers coming home from the bars. My first night, alone on shift, was a Tuesday, usually dead quiet. Around 2:45 a.m., I had run out of things to do inside. So, I grabbed a trash bag and went outside to tidy up around the pumps. The air was chilly, but not freezing. Typical spring in New Hampshire. Aside from a couple of empty coffee cups and cigarette butts, there wasn't much to clean. I moved over to refill the windshield washer fluid containers, using a plastic jug that sloshed noisily in the silent lot. The sound echoed strangely off the metal gas pumps, bouncing back like I wasn't supposed to be there. I was suddenly very aware of just how alone I really was. The store's bright lights cast a harsh glow over the pavement, but anything beyond that edge was swallowed by darkness. I had just finished filling the second container when headlights appeared far down Elm Street. I figured maybe it was a late-night traveler or someone getting off the highway. But as the car got closer, I realized it wasn't that simple. It was a Manchester police cruiser. My immediate thought, someone probably complained about noise, or maybe something minor. The cruiser crawled into the lot, tires crunching softly over scattered gravel. But something felt off. The cop wasn't scanning the lot, wasn't looking around randomly. He was staring straight through the glass, focused, locked in, on the inside of the store. Specifically, the cashier's counter. He never even noticed me, standing right there, by the pumps. Abruptly, he parked right in front of the doors, jumped out, and moved quickly toward the entrance. I dropped the empty jug right by the pumps and hurried after him. My gut told me something wasn't right. The second the door chimed behind me, the officer spun around, startled. "Oh, hey," I stammered, trying to sound casual. "Oh, what's going on?" He let out a sharp breath, obviously relieved to see me. "You scared me," he admitted, glancing around the store again, like he was expecting someone to jump out. "Listen, the Dunkin' Donuts over on Hanover Street just got robbed. About 20 minutes ago." I blinked. Hanover Street, that was just 2 blocks away. "We think the guy's still close," the officer continued. "But here's the thing. He doesn't match the usual type." His voice shifted, more serious now. "He didn't even take much money. Looks like he's not in this for cash. He's in it for the thrill. Hurting people." I swallowed, throat dry. "Okay," I managed to say. "Thanks for the heads up." The officer scanned the store one more time, eyes darting to every corner. "Just be careful," he said firmly. "Keep an eye out, and call us if anything seems off." "Yeah, I will," I told him. He left, the cruiser pulling out of the lot, tires crunching softly, leaving me alone, feeling incredibly exposed. I immediately locked the front doors. Technically, I wasn't supposed to, but I didn't care. If my boss wanted to yell about it later, so be it. The next 15 minutes dragged. I paced around the store, constantly glancing at the clock, trying to quiet the rising paranoia in my chest. Every flicker, every shadow, felt like something. Felt wrong. By 3:15, usually, I'd expect a few early commuters to wander in. But tonight, nothing. The streets were silent. Then, at around 3:30, headlights. I tensed immediately, watching as a car pulled into the far corner of the lot. It tucked itself into the shadows, half hidden behind the tall bushes near the edge of the property. It wasn't a police car, and it didn't look like any regular customer either. An old, beat-up sedan, engine idling quietly. But nobody got out, not for several long minutes. I stood by the register, gripping the phone, watching. The officer's words kept ringing in my head, about someone dangerous, someone looking for a thrill. Was this him? Was he waiting? Waiting for me to unlock the door, or waiting for me to step outside? My heart thumped in my chest. Faster and faster. Then, the driver's door creaked open. A man stepped out, his face mostly hidden by a hoodie, moving quickly toward the gas pumps. There was something wrong about the way he walked. Head down, shoulders tight, like someone trying, very hard, not to be seen. He stopped, right near the pump I had been working at earlier, bending down, examining something on the ground. I squinted, leaning toward the glass, trying to make it out. Then I realized it was the empty windshield washer jug, the one I had dropped when the cop first pulled in. He stared at it for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, almost deliberately, he lifted his head and looked directly at me. Even at that distance, even through the glass, I felt it, like he was looking straight into my soul. My hand gripped the phone tighter, thumb hovering, ready to dial 911. But before I could, he dropped the jug, turned abruptly, walked straight back to his car. He climbed in, fired the engine, and drove away, tires crunching softly, no headlights, fading into the night. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what the hell I had just witnessed. He hadn't stolen anything, hadn't even tried the doors, but everything about his presence felt wrong. It was like he wanted me to know that he had seen me, that he knew exactly where I had been standing, alone, earlier that night. A patrol car cruised past about 15 minutes later, moving slower than usual, obviously looking for something. They didn't stop, and I didn't bother calling. What was I going to say? A strange guy picked up a plastic jug and stared at me. It sounded ridiculous, even in my own head. By morning, my relief came in, ready to take over the shift. He joked about how exhausted I looked. I laughed weakly, but I said nothing about what happened. A couple days later, while getting ready for my next shift, the local news played in the background. And then, a headline grabbed me. Police still searching for suspect in Hanover Street shooting. The footage was grainy, security camera footage. A man in a hoodie, face hidden, walking fast, posture exactly like the guy I saw that night. And then, something clicked. The officer had told me the guy didn't want money. He just liked hurting people. But what the news reported made it even worse. The victim at Dunkin' Donuts had survived. The man hadn't stolen any real money. Instead, he had taken just one thing: the victim's employee ID badge. Nothing else. The anchor speculated it might have been a trophy, and that's when it hit me. My mind flashed back to the windshield washer jug. What if that had been another potential trophy? Something meaningless to anyone else, but tied specifically to me. A quiet little reminder that he'd been there, that he'd seen me, that we shared a moment in that empty parking lot, a moment that I would never forget. And as the broadcast ended, one thought hit me, heavier than all the others. Whether the police ever found him or not, one thing was certain. He knew exactly where I worked, exactly where I stood, alone at night. And that night, he left empty-handed. At least, for now.